or a bottle of wine, and you can fractionalize that ownership, but it comes down to the asset, and do you trust the person or the entity holding your asset, right? Because a bottle of wine can walk off, whereas real estate can't move, right? So then we're speaking from our experience of real estate versus something else. But this bill would allow you to create a DAO for almost any purpose, any legal purpose.
And the other thing with tokenization, we just went the past crypto cycle, not this one. We went through a period of paying millions of dollars for virtual sneakers and ape paintings. Just because it can be tokenized does not mean it should. We can have a DAO restaurant, but because restaurants are so much more actively managed and the income is not passive, a DAO might not be the best way to go about it. But with real estate, it is primarily used as a passive income investment, so a DAO would be one of the better ways to go about it.
Right.
Danny and Rich.
Danny, Rich, and then behind.
Yeah, so theoretically, what would prevent an exit scam from the person delegated to manage the fiat side of things?
I mean, it would be the same thing right now. I have a fiduciary responsibility to the owners that I work with not to run away with their money. If I do, I'm held personally liable. So there is a layer of trust that you have to put into the person that you're going to choose to be this, managing member, boots on the ground. That's really what it comes down to.
All right, next is Rich.
So I just want to understand something question. The secondary market, would that be limited to New Hampshire entities as well?
So it depends on, again, the exemption. So if we are using the intrastate exemption, which we were talking about for the initial proof of concept, the intrastate exemption states that all owners must be persons in the state. So we would basically, to protect ourselves from liability, put a provision that says that these tokens are only valid if the holder is in state. But for any other exemption, like the 3C1, the 3C7 accredited investor, secondary sales are not regulated at all.
So I was thinking, if these tokens are on an exchange, what prevents me from just selling it to anyone else who's on that exchange?
Oh, absolutely nothing. That's
Right.
Secondary sales courts have ruled that they cannot be regulated under the Howey test of a common enterprise.
Gordon, and then Hans.
So the initial sale has to be to New Hampshire residents. Any secondary sales can be anybody in the world. Is that clear what you're saying?
Again, like I was saying, it is a two-track.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Jeez, guys.
So it is a two-track. We're talking about two different exemptions and two tracks. So the first track, the easy one, the 3C7, 3C1. As a tokenizer, I can only sell to qualified purchasers, but secondary sales are not regulated. The second track, only to New Hampshire residents, no restriction on account size, but those securities, or not securities, or whatever the SEC calls them, cannot go out of state. Just from a point of our liability, we would be personally liable for that. So yes.
That's how, if we're going the intrastate.
Yes.
I invest. What's stopping me, if these are on an exchange, what's stopping me from transferring the token to someone?
We would structure the DAO as such that if these tokens are transferred to an out-of-state person, natural or otherwise, these tokens would be invalid to protect ourselves from liability.
Right. So you could send it, but it would be worthless after that.
So they get cleared through the DAO before final settlement, basically?
Yes.
Right, and then the deed itself is not online. The deed itself is sometimes in the courthouse. So affecting the legal status of the DAO, the deed will be transferred to the DAO.
Yes.
And the court, whoever the deeds are.
Yeah. So
The DAO holds
repeat the question.
The question for everyone was, what would effectively the deed say and or hold? With legal recognition of DAOs, we can say that the deed would be the
ownership.
the ownership, the private key corresponding to XXX public key,
So,
and that keys would be the DAO.
right. The real estate associated with that deed would say the owner is the DAO, right? And that would be recorded with the state. You could also record deeds as an NFT on a blockchain backed up by IPFS, right? Because I believe that's where blockchain is going to go with real estate eventually. It's all going to move on to this distributed ledger. We just have to get the government out of the way for the most part. But you could link everything together and then make these transfers a lot easier once the technology is utilized by more entities.
All right, over here.
A little bit off that train, but how difficult is it to actually create a DAO? Like, anytime you want to do this, do I need a mathematician, crypto expert to do this?
Tech-wise, it is actually incredibly easy to create your own token. I believe many organizations have put do-it-yourself 5-minute create a DAO online. It's the structuring of the in real life assets and doing the work with the Secretary of State, with the county clerk, to ensure that these assets are owned by the DAO properly, ensuring that everything is done properly. That is where this business is going.
Right. You want to make sure that the rules that govern this DAO are ironclad, right? You want to make sure as much as possible that there's no issues with any of these rules, that no one person could make a mistake and sell the property, right? So that's the important part, is making sure these rules are written out and everyone agrees to them, right? If there's 100 people all looking at these rules, you've all got eyes on them, somebody should see an error within the rule. potentially.
99 people, he meant to say.
99. There you go.
All right, at the back there, and then back to Roger. All right.
Okay, so I can give you a for instance. So under the 3C1, 3C7 trap, there might be a few millionaires in the room who can just buy a token of the DAO, but for the rest of us, we could form a investment club. The club buys the DAO, right? And then secondary transactions are unregulated. So at that point, can the DAO token be divisible? So it's a $5 million single token that we can have.
To answer your question, the single token does not have to be $5 million. It's just by way of the qualified purchaser requirement. Each investor has to have $5 million just to spare in a brokerage account. So the investment, as much as I would like to see all these regulations go away, that is a weirdly firm rule that the SEC has set, and there's not much I can do to get around that.
Well, you could facilitate the secondary market by, issuing.
As a tokenizer, I cannot, but if a qualified purchaser, like I said, purchased a group of these tokens, they want to sell it on the secondary market. That secondary sale, there's no restrictions. Anyone can buy that. Tokens.
So we need, if I'm understanding correctly, we need rich people, and then we need less rich people, and we all need to trust each other. This is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Trust but verify.
But
Yes.
You could issue it as $5 million $1 tokens, or does it?
Yeah, I could.
Yeah.
Yeah, fractional shares.
Right.
Yeah.
All
it's an
right. Do we want
arbitrary
more
number that you
questions, or
choose
do
at
we
any
want to
time.
go ahead a little bit here? Or
Hit the
What-
next one.
Yeah, see what
next
else-
one.
We're pretty close.
We're pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't want to keep people from lunch. We'll go another 5 minutes.
All right.
We started late.
Right. So, essentially what we're trying to do is integrate an old technology with a new technology, right? Being real estate, the bureaucracy of government, with the new technology of blockchain. We're thinking that a DAO can do that and can benefit everybody in New Hampshire by building supply for real estate.
I mean, for me, I'll just jump in for a hot sec. The vision is really right. So I believe everyone should move to New Hampshire and we should like build this awesome country, right? But we also understand that, you know, some people have reasons why they can't move, family, maybe they own a lot of assets somewhere else, whatever, they're a digital nomad. But if your values really align with our values as free staters here in New Hampshire, and perhaps you're not going to move, but you really want to support what we are doing, because honestly, I mean, we're probably doing one of the coolest, most radical things happening in the world right now. No one really wants to talk about it in that flavor, but that is genuinely what is happening on the ground here. So I think the idea is we're trying to find people who are creative, who do have wealth, who want to literally, with the words, invest in New Hampshire. And everyone up here, including myself, you know, we have track records in the state. We have all been business people here. We are people who are known in our communities, and, you know, we come with reputations and trust, you know, so I think it's so exciting once again to be able to be at the cusp of something that I believe is going to be a world leader, and we're the smart people in the room who can all ask these questions and get together and sort of figure out, hey, how do we do this thing that has literally never been done before, and maybe, disclaimer, make some money.
Love it. Love it.
I have one quick question. I hope it's a quick question. What would be, if there are any, what would the limitations be on the DAO to own property outside of the state of New Hampshire? So if the DAO is formed with New Hampshire residents, you know, what would preclude that DAO from owning, you know, an apartment building in another state, or perhaps, you know, international?
Oh, absolutely nothing. The SEC, and this is why it is so important to get this DAO bill through. What this would enable us to do is organize DAOs for not just in New Hampshire real estate. This was just the case we were talking about but for any sort of other real estate, securities, any assets.
Mm-hmm.
So by way of example, if someone was eager to start to buy up the coastline of Maine, I wouldn't think that was a stupid play. I'm just saying. Yes.
Is there any, you're talking about investment, is there any technology shortfalls? This kind of pup, is there like, from a tech entrepreneur, do you guys have been doing this, is there an opportunity for a tech developer to put something to help facilitate this marketplace or make the transaction smoother, or is there a piece of that that's...
So tech-wise, my big disclaimer is not that I know of. And the reason I say this is with computers, anything we know, technology fails at the most inopportune times.
Right.
As my opinion on the DAO is, if people want to self-custody, they should, but there are just as many people who don't want to self-custody. If you're not comfortable self-custodying, we have no problem with you using a clearinghouse to finish your transactions just like you would a regular security or any other asset. Mm-hmm. But like the DAO gives you that level 0 option if all of these centralized agencies, bureaucracies do not work or are turned off. You still have the blockchain to fall back on.
There are several companies right now that are offering to build a DAO for you. You know, it's how much do you trust the other person on the internet. So I personally would like to work with developers within New Hampshire who have the same goals as this DAO, right? To build the rules, to build the marketplace, right? This graphical interface that everybody needs to see. So I'd love if everybody in New Hampshire could do this. Is it possible you have to outsource it to somebody? Yes. But again, you have to trust them.
Gavin at the back, and then the gentleman next to him. Sorry.
Each DAO will put like just a single property, or you're going to sometimes pool like 10 properties into one DAO?
My vision is one DAO per property. That's my vision, because then you can spread your resources out over a bunch of different projects. You're not limited by one. One can live forever in perpetuity, and the others could buy and sell whatever they wanted and close if they needed to.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so being kind of new to a lot of this, although I think what's the advantage of doing this as a DAO versus just forming an LLC and bringing in some partners and letting people invest 20 grand in buying a piece of real estate? What's the whole
I think that's a very valid question. It's a good one. And what we're talking about already has analogs in the real world. You can have a real estate investment trust, REIT, which is shares on the exchanges, and it's SEC regulated, so that's already there. We can do a syndication, which is several partners get together, and you have a general partner and then limited partners, or you just have 6, 8, 10 partners who buy a piece of property together. That's already done. We've done a number of those with our friends and fellow investors at that level. But you let these guys answer it differently. My opinion is we just want to be the first. We want to prove the concept, and it's a really cool thing to do here in the Free State because we have so many liberty-minded folks. We have so many people into cryptocurrency and blockchain. I think we want to prove the concept to show the rest of the world that it can be done. And secondarily, it allows, if we do it right, allows a lower level investment for people, $500, $5,000, instead of having to be a major partner. That would be my answer, and you guys may have a different opinion.
And to add on to that, like I keep saying, level 0 closing mechanism. Look, before we centralized everything and electronicized trading, you could give me a stock certificate, I could give you $1, no exchange, no central entity involved. A DAO is the new analog for that. So if you own this piece of property, or if you own the DAO controlling this piece of property, you can give me the private key to the DAO. I can give you money. There's no third party, no central transaction.
Is it like a bearer's bond? Was that what they were called?
Yes.
Yeah.
Stock certificates would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's so we're trying to take the physical world into the digital world and create an opportunity for something new. And I think maybe the way to think about it, there's this new book out that a Free Stater who's going to move at the end of this year wrote called Growing Liberty, and Jason Sarens did the foreword and I did the afterword. And I said, I think a way we should be thinking about what we're doing in New Hampshire as we're kind of like in 1600 Switzerland. I mean, that's kind of how I think we should be thinking about what we're doing. New Hampshire is actually still, yes, prices have gone up, but there's a housing shortage, but it is still kind of cheap if you think you're buying into Switzerland in the 1600s. And so I think we need to be looking, I love it because we're also brilliant, and so people immediately are like, how could this fail in 100 ways? Let me ask you all the hard questions, right? But let's flip that around and go, what are the opportunities? How can we work together to actually do these amazing, radical, unique things that are going to make, again, with our values of peace and prosperity, if we can bring people and show them that these ideas work. And there is nothing more libertarian than real property. Like, you are owning a piece of land in a place that we hopefully will be our little country. So it should be exciting, and everyone should be taking a photo of that, and everyone should ask for the prospectus, and everyone should work with us to come do something that is historic, literally historic.
How sure are you about the $5 million number for the accredited investor status? I mean, I've heard $1 million bandied about.
The 5 mil is qualified purchaser. That is a little different. So accredited investor is $200,000 a year in income, or $1 million liquid net worth minus primary residence, or passing some sort of FINRA examination.
All right, so we have to wrap it up. Mark asked me to remind everyone you can come talk to us at the Porcupine Real Estate and Ledgeview commercial tables. I hope Smart Kumar will be out there to answer all the hard questions. Give a round of applause to the idiot and the panel.